Hallo liebe Piloten und herzlich willkommen zurück aus unserem Set. Wir haben wieder einen spannenden Gast für euch. Nein, es ist nicht Sebastian, aber es ist jemand, der bekannter ist als Sebastian, Deborah Chow. Verantwortlich unter anderem für The Mandalorian, aber jetzt ist sie zurück und wird bei jeder einzelnen Episode von Obi-Wan Kenobi Regie führen. Nice to meet you. Really nice to meet
Nice
you.
to meet you
I'm
too.
so looking forward to this show. Obi-Wan
Thank
Kenobi has been a cultural phenomenon ever since the 70s.
Hello there.
So, what was it like to tackle this character?
It was challenging. It was challenging. Obviously we're between two major trilogies with two very iconic characters. So there's a real responsibility to those characters and to the story. So it was a difficult story, honestly, to figure out how to tell it. But it's also incredibly exciting and an honor to get to tell a story with these guys.
And without getting into spoilers, because of course I think you're not even allowed to spoil anything.
I can't, no.
You did work on The Mandalorian, which was basically a space western, and now you got to work on Obi-Wan Kenobi. How would you describe the tone of the show?
The tone of the show, it's interesting because one of the things that I was most excited about with the Kenobi series is that with Unlimited series, we really had the opportunity to do a character-driven series. So I really wanted to focus it on his character and do something sort of similar, not quite as dark, but in a similar vein to like what they did with like Logan or Joker, where you take one character out of a franchise and really try to tell their story. So I would say like if Mandalorian was sort of a classic Western, what we were really trying to do with this one was almost a little bit more of an atmospheric sort of poetic Western. So I was looking at things like The Proposition or Assassination of Jesse James and just kind of to get something that felt very emotional.
You just struck a nerve with me because Logan is probably my all-time favorite comic book movie. So.
That's a great movie.
And what was it like to bring back both Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor and work with both of them? I mean, we haven't seen them in ages, especially in their respective roles.
It was pretty exciting. It was really exciting. And I think, one of the things that was kind of special in terms of the whole shoot, actually, and with those two in particular, is that they have a history together. They did this together like 17 years ago or however many years ago. Same with Joel and Bonnie. So they're coming back and they're at different points in their life. They've done so many other things, but there was still quite a bond between them. So, you have a personal relationship in addition to the characters.
And are you still in awe when you step onto a Star Wars set? Because it must be crazy to see, for example, Darth Vader in the flesh or in the suit.
Yeah, I mean, the first time, honestly, that, Vader came out fully suited, I mean, he's huge, and he's like twice my size, and it's Darth Vader. It's like one of the most iconic characters in cinema. So to have him sort of standing there in front of you, and then also to be directing him is kind of crazy, because it's not that many people, honestly, who've had the opportunity to direct Darth Vader, so it was very humbling, yeah.
I can't even imagine what it must be like to be in charge of a Star Wars project where you have to balance so many different chapters that came before. Obviously, at the prequel trilogies, then there were the TV shows, for example, Star Wars Rebels. We saw some recurring characters from Rebels in the trailer. So how do you balance it all out and yet keep it in continuity and still keep it fresh?
It is definitely tricky. And especially with a project like this where there's so many legacy characters. Like with Mandalorian, we were starting, it was a lot of new characters. It was a different point in the timeline, so it had a lot more freedom. But this one is really tied, like we were very closely tied to Revenge of the Sith and the prequels. And then obviously we're hooking up to the original trilogy. So there's quite a responsibility in trying to stay accurate and to respect the canon and everything that George has set out, but at the same time we had to tell our own story, and I kind of had to have my own vision for the show. So I think the biggest challenge is just trying to balance those two.
You mentioned Logan before, and I was wondering what new side to Obi-Wan Kenobi we're going to witness in the show. So it must be quite the depressing phase in his life, right?
It is definitely a dark period, so we're 10 years after Revenge of the Sith. So we're coming out of Order 66, and so quite a number of the Jedi have been killed, or they're being hunted, or they're in hiding. The Empire is fully ascendant, and the Inquisitors are out there hunting Jedi. And so I think the starting place for Obi-Wan in our series it's a dark time period, and he's also personally still dealing with, what happened to Anakin and, everything that happened to the Jedi Order. So he's carrying quite a heavy burden at the start of the series.
Kathleen Kennedy promised, I think, the rematch of the century.
Oh, man.
Yeah, when it
No pressure.
Yeah, when
Yeah.
it comes to Obi-Wan Kenobi and his former apprentice Anakin Skywalker, aka Darth Vader. So, what was it like to craft these particular sequences? Again, not getting into spoilers.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things when we were trying to develop the material was like, we didn't want to just sort of bring back Vader or all the legacy characters just for the sake of it. And you don't want to, bring out Vader lightly. Like, you want to make sure there's a real point to it. But when you look at his life and you look at the character of Obi-Wan Kenobi, Anakin and Vader have played such a huge pivotal role in his life. They're obviously all the prequel relationship and then even into A New Hope. So it just felt, and for where we were starting coming out of Revenge of the Sith, it felt very natural that the story would end up, having Vader and having Anakin in it in an emotional way, particularly. So putting those two back together, it really started and it really ends with Obi-Wan's character and what that means to him in his life.
This show should also be the starting point of the bond between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Luke Skywalker, I presume. I mean, he is watching him from afar, but chronologically speaking, we pick up with these characters like 30 years afterwards, I think, during episode 4, probably.
10.
10.
Yeah, it's 10. We're right in the middle. So there's 20 in between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope.
All right. So will we get to see the start of their bond? I mean, this weird hermit that's called Ben Kenobi?
You're going to have to wait for that one. But we do obviously know coming out of Revenge of the Sith that is the starting point, that he left and he took on the duty of watching over the boy.
All right. My final question. You already tackled Mando. Now you're about to tackle Obi-Wan Kenobi. Is there another Star Wars character that you're interested in that you would like to tackle?
Right now, I actually just want to take a vacation.
Okay.
But, I think one of the things that's really cool actually about the streaming stuff with Star Wars is that, it's allowing a lot more stories to be told and a lot of new voices to come in. So it's a really interesting franchise also because, there's a huge timeline where you can set things in different periods, and it's also a huge galaxy. So, I think there's so many interesting stories still to be told.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure.
You too.
The Force will be with you, always.
Will you do me the honor and sign this stool?
Oh my goodness, you really want me to ruin that stool?
Oh, no, this is what it's there for.
Really?
Yeah, really,
To get
really.
people to sign it?
He's like
Oh,
a
dude,
character
we
in
should
our
have you do it.
in our
It'd be much more
show,
exciting.
and we want him to be filled with.
This stool, does he have a
signatures.
name?
Yeah. Stool. Hocker in German. Hocker.
Haka.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Interesting. Okay.
It was actually an inside joke because we just left it out in the open, and our
Oh.
cameraman was bothered by the fact that everyone could see the stool. And then we're like, you know what? We're keeping it. It's going to be part of our show. So now he's sitting on the couch with us.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now he's got a place at the table.
Yeah.
Poor stool. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.